but to all the influencers that then think that you can start doing deadlifts and walking lunges with a weighted vest, and because you're wearing the weighted vest, that's somehow going to magically change things. Welcome back to another episode of the Smart Strength Training Podcast. We are on podcast episode 41, and I'm going to come in today with effectively social media hype. Certainly across the last 6 months, my social media has been really lit up with two quite repetitive themes. The first is around weighted vests and their potential role in increasing bone density. And the second is grip strength and how it relates to all-cause mortality. So I want to go through on this episode and unpack both of them. And I think the most important part of this is there are a couple of key elements that people should be really, really aware of when it comes to analyzing research as a whole. So I'll start with weighted vests and the hype around weighted vests. I've seen it getting really out of hand. I've seen influencers doing deadlifts, so a weighted bar plus a weighted vest, claiming that it can be help with increasing bone density. It's getting heavily marketed towards women, especially post-menopause or peri and post-menopausal women, of course, because the conversation around bone density, osteopenia, osteoporosis is a major, major concern. And there is, and I'm going to state from the start, there is really positive research. But the key element on this to think about is what populations are the researchers looking at, and therefore is that representative of me as an individual? So what does the research actually show us? Because like I said, there are some really promising research into weighted vests for improving bone health, especially in sedentary and at-risk groups. So 3 notable examples of the research is one research paper looked at sedentary women, and they got half participants walking and the other half were walking with weighted vests. So these weren't physically active women prior to the intervention that the research put in place. Some were just asked to walk and the others were asked to walk with a weighted vest. And those that walked with the weighted vest showed significant increases in bone mineral density compared to those that were just doing walking alone. And then another research looked at post-menopausal women, and once again looking at weighted vests or walking with weighted vests. So in this group, they actually looked at high-risk populations, so women that were already showing signs of osteopenia, and then gave them interventions where, again, in one group were just doing the walking, the other group were doing walking with a weighted vest, and once again, we saw that increase in bone density. And finally, another research paper of note looked at obese adults, both male and female. And the study was looking at these participants during a diet phase. So during a period of caloric restriction, where we know the body is underfueled, where bone or loss of bone can occur during diet phases. And we saw that with the group that weren't given any kind of exercise intervention versus the one that was given walking with a weighted vest, that those that were doing the diet whilst walking with a weighted vest showed on DEXA scanners to improve in bone density. So of course, that's awesome. Really, really useful, amazing research to give us very practical advice. So the key insights to that are weighted vests can help inactive people who are sedentary if they're concerned around bone density, which I hope they would be, and for older adults as a whole. But it's an important but. So we know that biological tissue adapts to the stresses that we place upon it. So if the stress over time is increasing, the body has to adapt to that stress, and biological tissue adapts in a way to effectively be more dense, more of it, so more muscle and more bone. So naturally, if you've got someone doing nothing and the other people doing walking with a weighted vest, or just walking and then versus walking with a weighted vest, those are the weighted vests, especially because quite a few of these research papers progressively increase the load of the weighted vest. So we've got progressive overload in play right there and then. But what if participants are already resistance training? In that situation, that person is already applying, or hopefully if they're doing a structured program with applied progressive overload, would adding a weighted vest help in a situation where someone is already doing resistance training? unsurprisingly, we haven't got a ton of research that actually answers that question directly. There's only one research paper, but it wasn't looking at bone density. It was looking at rates of fat loss during a weight loss phase, comparing not exercising, using a weighted vest versus resistance training. So it doesn't really give us key insight into the context or the conversation around bone density. And the results of that were fairly equivocal. And the reality is, I don't expect to see research where there would be a weighted vest intervention alongside resistance training, because you wouldn't expect to see any benefit to it. What the research into weighted vests has given us is a fantastic tool to give people able to get access to the gym, or are maybe have injuries and don't want to go to the gym. We have ways for them to start to incorporate resisted forms of exercise that could help them with increasing bone density. Awesome. But to all the influencers that then think that you can start doing deadlifts and walking lunges with a weighted vest, and because you're wearing the weighted vest, that's somehow going to magically change things. I mean, it's just a bit painful actually to observe at the moment, which is generally a theme on social media. So weighted vests, amazing for those that are concerned about bone density and aren't able to be physically active with resistance training. Where also weighted vests are amazing and really, really useful though, for those that actually are resistance training, is in the benefit in cardiovascular conditioning. So we know that weighting your walks, your hill walking, maybe a stair climber, with those forms of training are either impact, high impact, or moderate impact. And if you want to increase the cardiovascular output, so therefore push your muscles, heart, and lungs higher without speeding up excessively to the point in which your joints may be compromised due to that impact, then we can see from multiple research papers that weighted vests paired with low impact conditioning is a fantastic way to improve cardiovascular health and overall metabolic health without putting that stress on the joints. So in that situation, fantastic. If you want to use a weighted vest as a tool in your conditioning, I'm 100% on board with that. And the second topic I spoke about was grip strength and longevity. Grip strength and longevity, why this really matters is because this is circulating a lot. We see a lot of influencers, doctors, Peter Attia, talking about the link between grip strength and all-cause mortality risk factors, showing that research has demonstrated that one of the measures that can be used as a predictor for all-cause mortality is grip strength. And that has then led a lot of people then to start promoting grip-based exercises. Like you have to be able to dead hang for a certain period of time. So just hanging off a bar for a certain period of time. You should be able to carry a certain percentage of your body weight for a certain period of time, with this idea that it's the grip strength itself that is directly causing this link to reducing all-cause mortality risk. And then, of course, it goes a little bit further, which I'm kind of on board with this sort of takeaway, that by increasing grip strength, that can help in older life carrying, shopping, making sure you can feed yourself as an adult, opening jars and being useful. I don't mind that so much, but let's just take this a step back for a moment. So what we're seeing is a correlation. Grip strength is simply a simple, cheap, effective measure when we're doing population studies to look at overall strength. If someone has good grip strength or like adequate grip strength, you would generally also mean they've been physically active. They may be digging in the garden. They may have been doing recreational weight training. So what it shows is more of a measure, a general measure of full body strength and potentially full body muscle tissue, because we also know that sarcopenia is a major issue for adults as they age, so loss of muscle tissue. And of course, people as older adults are more likely to fall and have falls that are quite bad. So therefore, when they have that fall, it becomes like life-changing. So having higher grip strength, having more total body muscle, having more total body strength is going to align to that. The thing we really want to do is just encourage people to generally get stronger. And then by generally getting stronger, you will be pushing and pulling. You might be doing some lat pull downs or some rows or some walking lunges. So generally speaking, your grip strength is going to be improved. You don't have to be beating some doctors test for dead hang and grip strength tests like walking farmers carries. You just want to get stronger as a whole. And again, it's one of those correlation versus causal relationships that gets lost on social media. The research is amazing. It shows it's a very useful tool, proxy that we can test people and get an idea of their overall risk factor when it comes to overall strength. But we have to be able to separate that and say that's not actually what we're looking at. What we're looking at is the bigger picture of full muscle tissue, full body strength, and that person having good function of their body as an older adult. And that's the primary takeaway. We want to make sure that people are getting strong and then staying strong for the rest of their life. So I wanted to answer that because this is a conversation that comes up certainly a lot with my clients. Ask me this, and I get a lot of questions about it on social media. Should I start incorporating weighted vests? Should I start incorporating grip strength into my schedule, an already busy schedule? And sometimes the answer could be yes for the weighted vest, but a lot of time it's going to be no, you're already doing things are sufficient. And for grip strength, by all means, you can add grip strength into your workout, but I wouldn't put pressure on it. I will just generally get strong as a whole. And finally, myth busting and helping my clients really cut through the noise in social media is always a huge part of what I do as part of my online personal training.